Welcome to Crosstalk. I'm Peter Lavelle. Another legal intervention approved by the UN, now in Ivory Coast. A former leader is unseated at the expense of hundreds of civilian dead. Will the country's new leader be any different? Or will the West help him clean his image up as fast as it got rid of his predecessor? To discuss the turmoil in Ivory Coast, I'm joined by Gnaka Lagoke. He's in Washington. He's a political analyst and founder of AfricaDiplomacy.com. In Paris, we go to Francois Ndinwi. He is the founder of the African Advisory Board. And in London, we have Ayo Johnson. He is the founder and director of Viewpoint Africa. All right, gentlemen, this is Crosstalk. That means you can jump anytime you want. But first, let's have a quick look at what has been happening in the Ivory Coast over the last 4 months.
Decisive action and immediate results. France's military help to its former colony Ivory Coast may seem to have brought some justice to the country. With 1,400 French troops, we're told the Ivorians managed to overthrow its long-standing leader, who refused to accept defeat in the last presidential elections. The scenes of his fall are iconic for the whole of the African world and mark an end of the desperate sufferings for some Ivorians. For others, this is nothing less than a coup aimed at imposing outside rule there. While Ivorians are still divided over the shift of power, a new president who officially won the elections, Alassane Ouattara, is making promises.
Our country has turned a painful page in its history. After more than 4 months of post-electoral crisis, marked by so many lives lost, we are finally at the dawn of a new era of hope.
Though France clearly picked a side in the Ivorian conflict, it doesn't want to be seen as a stakeholder and invader. Backed by the United Nations, it claims its soldiers stopped at the gates of the presidential palace and left a final battle for Ivorians. No matter what it is called, a smart intervention or just a small French contribution, it can be used as a selling point for further Western military interventions. Inessa Petrova for Crosstalk, RT.
All right, gentlemen, I'd like to go to Washington first. What we heard in that report, was it a smart intervention on the part of the French and the United Nations? Smart intervention or neo-colonialism?
Thank you very much, Peter. It's a great honor for me to be on this show. And I take the opportunity, to thank you for all the great work you're doing. It is pure neocolonialism. And when I was given the opportunity to talk about the crisis in the country, about what was going on in the country, I have denounced neocolonialism, and many in the mainstream media did not want to talk about that. This is not the first time France has done that in the country. They did that in 2004 when they destroyed the Ivorian Air Force on the ground, killed 69 Ivorian and wounded more than 1,000 people. They wanted to overthrow the president in 2004. They did not succeed this time, and they did. And of course, it is pure neocolonialism.
Okay, if we can go to London. Ayo, what do you think about that? I mean, it's very nihilistic on the part of the French and the West in general. This is not the first intervention we've seen in the Ivory Coast and in a whole list of other countries in the region. And we might want to talk a little bit about Libya later. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think the intervention by the West has always been their game plan. Usually, if they've got need for regime change or if there's something more pertinent in terms of resources, allocation or land grabbing. But nonetheless, I think in this particular instance, I think the French were very, very keen and eager to get into the gameplay. And I think it's a mistake because it sent the wrong signals that, especially when they supported Mr. Ouattara very heavily, that Mr. Ouattara's campaign and governance moving forward will be tainted to an extent by the fact that he is a supporter of the West. He is controlled and he will deal with the West far kindly than any other leader would otherwise do. But I think Mr. Gbagbo found himself in a lot of trouble, going as far back as 2000 when he came into power, not to mention in 2002 when he refused to get Mr. Ouattara to engage in the political machine in that country. And of course, the subsequent civil war that we had did not play in his favour, and more so most recently when he had the elections which were otherwise certified by the international community that he did lose. I think the writing was on the wall, and the rest is history. So I think for all the intentions of the French taking part in this equation and supporting Mr. Ouattara and getting involved in the politics, I think it's for the right reasons, and it's to send a signal to Mr. Gbagbo that he lost the election, be it that is controversial, because Mr. Gbagbo would said otherwise that he won those elections.
Francois, in Paris, what do you think about that? Because Ouattara has been called the Bretton Woods candidate. I mean, he used to be a functionary over at the IMF. So he does very much look like the West's man there, and no insult to the gentleman, but he does have a French wife on top of that. I mean, is he really identifying himself with the Ivorian people? Because that's one of the problems that the country has. There's a lot of ethnic strife, religious strife. I mean, there's a lot of divisions. Is he the right guy to overcome those divisions in this country?
This will be up to the people of Côte d'Ivoire to answer. But regarding what happened and the way this conflict has been concluded by military intervention, I think that this is something that is disastrous. And even we have to start with law, continue with law, and finish with law. And when we talk of law, we have text and we have actions. This French and UN intervention was based on the resolution 1975. And in no place, in no paragraph in this intervention, do you see any justification of a massive attack as the military attack as the one you have. On the contrary, in point number 2, this resolution said that all the call upon all the parties to continue to try to find a political solution here. And this resolution even praised the African Union decision to appoint a special envoy to solve this issue. And this special envoy have been designated. It was the minister, if I'm not wrong, Brito of Cape Verde, but President Gbagbo accepted, but the Ouattara camps refused this guy. So it was possible to continue to find another special envoy and to try to find a political solution to this. So I think solving a problem this way is a disaster. It's a disaster because you have refused, because when you act like this, you refuse the voice of the people. You have, instead of the electoral process, you choose the military process. So we're no longer in the logic of the voice of the people through elections. This means that people have been frustrated, and these are if Mr. Ouattara starts as a president, it will have a very difficult task.
Okay, I'd like to go back. I'd like to go back to Washington because I think you bring up a very good point here. I mean, in international media, Gbagbo is a really bad guy, and maybe he is, okay? But he is the new president, the sitting president now. Is he any better? Meaning, does he have any less blood on his hands when it comes to this conflict? Because it seems to me it's very one-sided. There's a good guy and there's a bad guy, but it looks like the two main players have a lot of blood on their hands. Are they going to be both held accountable?
Hello, yes, Peter, thank you very much. When I was talking on democracy now, I said that in Ivory Coast it was not a matter of one person being a hero and the other one being a villain, or one being an angel, another one being a demon. Both are tragic heroes. This is what I said on Democracy Now! And Alassane Ouattara, I think I can even tell that he has more blood on his hand than Gbagbo, because Gbagbo Laurent came to power through peaceful means. And then he became president. Of course, there were some moments of repression, and then there were some innocent people killed by his forces, which I have denounced. But Alassane Ouattara created a rebellion in Ivory Coast in 2002, split the country in two, and then when the international community said that he is the winner of the election, which can be disputed because when the president of the Electoral Commission announced that the participation rate during the second round was 81%, that could not be possible because all credible sources said that the participation rate could not go beyond 70%. So now, when, like Francois said in Paris, when they were trying to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict, the United Nations, the US, France have given a green light to Alassane Ouattara to launch a military offensive in order to attack the army of the Ivory Coast and kill innocent people and many civilians. As we speak, it was even reported this morning by a French newspaper. There are searching people and they're killing Gbagbo supporters like everywhere in Abidjan, in San Pedro, in the western part of the country. So, of course, Alassane Ouattara is disqualified to talk about hope and change and peace in Ivory Coast. This is my answer to this question.
If I can go to you, but I mean, the new president now, he has French military backing, okay? I mean, he has a free hand right now, doesn't he? Again, you know, this whole neo-colonialism card is in play. You can only lead a country when you have powerful Western backers. And what does he have to give up to keep that support?
Well, what is the price? He who pays the piper calls the tune. Absolutely spot on. But I think the intervention is wrong. I personally think that Mr. Ouattara has his work cut out because he's got to find a mechanism to support the entire country and for the country to start operating as one. And how he galvanizes the people in the south, how he galvanizes the youths and offer employment, training, and start to identify with their aspirational needs remains to be seen whether he's capable of doing so. And he's going to need all the support he can have internationally, and very much so from the French and the international community. Otherwise, what you will find over time is that you will have a tiny rebellion again starting in the south, building up to oust him in the future. So to avoid that, I think the international community, the French, have got to support Mr. Ouattara. He clearly is the man of the flavor and the season at the moment. But above and beyond that, Mr. Ouattara has to find a mechanism as to how we can unite the country, how we can disarm the thousands of ammunitions out there, lots of people who have guns. How are you going to make those streets safe? How are you going to encourage people who've left the country to come back? And I think the international community needs to support him.
I'm going to have to jump in here. We'll talk about the end game later and see if there is one, actually. After that break, we'll continue our discussion on the Ivory Coast. Stay with our team.
They come in thousands. Some want to play with her. The others want to tame her spirit. But she is the diva of the rivers. And Diva is not in her best mood. Biolia River, chasing adrenaline on RT. Wealthy British scion Zach Goldsmith, investment activist
Markets, finance, scandal. Find out what's really happening to the global economy with Max Kaiser. For a no-holds-barred look at the global financial headlines, tune in to Kaiser Report on RT.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Peter Lavelle. To remind you, we're talking about the Ivory Coast intervention. Okay, if I can go back to Francois in Paris, one of the biggest problems with these interventions as of late, a la Libya, or maybe even Afghanistan, and we can look at Iraq, is the end game. Now, has anybody, those smart people that planned this military event with their bleeding hearts, thought about the end game? What comes next here? Are we going to have a fair trial for the deposed, or is it just going to be winner take all?
Yes, this is a very interesting question because this can give us an idea of what the people who plan this operation think. But we should try as much as possible to remain neutral here and to look at the reality and facts. The question here is not to count or to measure who has more blood on his hand, whether Ouattara or or Gbagbo. We have an electoral process, and then after that we have an electoral dispute. The matter was how to solve this electoral dispute. And again, you have to go back to the text. Côte d'Ivoire was a sovereign country with a constitution. What did the constitution say? The constitution said that it is up to the constitutional court to decide who was the winner. But the constitutional court had decided that Gbagbo was the winner. But in fact, given all the things that this decision, in my view, was not fair. This decision, and I think this is where the biggest mistake came. The decision of the Constitutional Court was not fair because of many things. Because of it's long, it will be very long to explain here. But at least people who could have reconsidered this decision, and at the African Advisory Board, we have proposed a way to solve this problem. We could have started first by undoing this decision and try to see all the claims of the Gbagbo.
Okay,
so
Francois, let me jump in here. Let me ask.
No,
Peter.
I think this is important.
All right, okay, go ahead. Quick.
This is very important. Yes, let me finish quickly.
Washington, go ahead. Go ahead, jump in. Go ahead.
Yes, okay, yes. Francois, like you said, it is going to be too long to have a conversation about the result. My point is that Alassane Dramane Ouattara is perceived, and it is true, as the Bretton Woods candidate, and is perceived as the French governor in the country, and is perceived as somebody who is not sensitive, to the plight and to the cry of many. As we speak, many are bleeding, people are traumatized, and then when you allow your forces, to humiliate Gbagbo, and if you want to think that the results were true, that at least 46% of the country, at least half of the country, cannot like the way Gbagbo and his wife have been humiliated. When you do that and you come and talk about reconciliation, it's going to be difficult. Second thing, if the support he received from France and the United States and the international community, there is no way Alassane Dramane Ouattara is going to try and meet the needs of the people in the country, because he has to serve first the interest of that international community. And second, he is one of the person who believes that you can sleep with the devil in order to get where you need to go. And Alassane Dramane Ouattara has sold his soul to the devil, so there is no way he can really be like a president who is going to take Ivory Coast to the next level. Okay,
in London, I'd like to go to you. One of the things in researching this program, I found it remarkable how many times internationally recognized president, okay, as if it was the outside community, and we all know what the international community means. It means Western Europe and the United States. That's the international community when we hear about public opinion. And it was almost as if there was a drumbeat here, is that the West had already determined what the outcome was going to be in Ivory Coast, and then they found finally their tool to do it, and then their favorite one is military intervention. Am I wrong about that?
Yes, to an extent, it's the mindset. This is a battle of hearts and minds. And the West has got to understand that if they go in premature, if they go into countries and get involved into politics that they do not understand, if they fail to understand cultural and tribal mixes and how that integrates on the ground itself, then you can find that they can have similar situations what we find in Afghanistan, Iraq, and most recently that of Somalia. And of course, now we are seeing similar situations with Libya. So it's a lack of preparation, lack of foresight, and a lack of understanding, and very much so. They can get it so wrong, and they do not seem to be learning from the lessons. But I think the United States has learned, because this is why in Libya especially, they've decided not to take the moral high ground and push the campaign forward as they usually do in other campaigns, but taking a back seat. Because mistakes can happen, and the longer that these conflicts go on, the longer that you do not find a solution to some of these crises, the more likely likely you can make mistakes, and the more likely public opinion can change on you. And very much this battle is hearts and minds, how you maintain the status quo locally with the population, how you maintain the coalition itself, and very much so how you maintain international consensus. And the minute that starts to change, then the whole thing starts unraveling. And there are risks when you get into these sort of mindset and when you get involved in other people's machinery and wars. So thankfully, in this particular instant in Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire, we do not find that to be the situation. But it remains to be seen how and locally whether Mr. Ouattara can be embraced, how the people in the south can support him, and how very much so how the country would move forward. So I think only time would tell.
Okay, I'd like to ask all three of you the same question. I'd like to go to Washington first. What message is this intervention, this military intervention into Ivory Coast, telling other leaders in the region? I'm thinking about members of the African Union, all through North Africa and Arab North Africa and beyond. I mean, are we just going to have to get used to more and more interventions? I mean, it seems to be the flavor of the time. If we can go to Washington first on that.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I'm going to take the opportunity, to say that Obama, Sarkozy, and the international community, they have lacked hindsight, insight, and foresight on the crisis by allowing a military offensive in the country. And second, we know that the dictators who have ruled Africa for many years. I can talk about the first president of Ivory Coast, Houphouët-Boigny. I can talk about Mobutu in Zaire. We can talk about Eyadema, who ruled for almost 40 years in Togo. All those leaders were backed by the West, France, and the US. And then, of course, at that time, people were not they did not intervene in order to restore democracy. And the Secretary of State of the United States, Hillary Clinton, said that Gbagbo's overthrow sent a clear message to the world. I think she was wrong, because there are millions of Africans who sympathize with Gbagbo Laurent and who still remember African heroes who have tried in order to defend African sovereignty and African nationalism, who believe in a Pan-African ideal, and who are tired of the neocolonialism in Africa, and who are tired of the French interference in African affairs. So those people, they don't have the same understanding of Hillary Clinton. People see as a leader who is trying to promote neocolonialism. Because if they want to talk about democracy, they should go to Burkina Faso, where the president of that country killed one of the best people we can have in Africa, Thomas Sankara, and who was in power for more than 20 years, and who has been creating wars creating war in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, and now in Ivory Coast. So these are the people they should go after. But of course, they're not going to do that, because these are the puppets they want to see in like leading African nations.
Francois, if I can go to you in Paris, what do you think? How do you reflect upon that? Because it still looks like there's going to be an element within the political establishment of African countries that'll always look for the West to get them in power, to choose them as their new dictator or new friend in a particular country and in the region in general. That's still a bad habit that hasn't been broken.
Yes, yes. You were talking about the messages. What messages could come from this military intervention? I think I see only negative messages. The first one is that instead of solving a problem through a legal process, through a political process, the so-called international community, France and the US, they have preferred the military option. The military option is destructive. Mm-hmm. Secondly, this is a foreign intervention in Africa. Mm-hmm. We no longer need this. Mm-hmm. If at the limit, this could have been solved by African soldiers fighting each camp. We don't need foreign interventions. You have ECOWAS, you have the African Union. This is an African problem that should have been solved by Africans. This problem is not happening, say, in Argentina or in Nebraska. So it's an African problem. I don't know why French all these foreign forces could intervene. Thirdly, when it comes to this thing, we see what is the outcome now. President, if we consider the present situation, let's say President Alassane Ouattara is the president. Contrary to my brother from Washington, I don't have any clue against him. Suppose he's the president. I don't have any clue against President Ouattara. Suppose he's the president. When will he be inaugurated? Under what constitutional test? You see, when you're a president, you have the people rejoice. People come out from the town by millions, and they approve you based on the constitution that said you are elected. Now, this military intervention has created something unprecedented in Côte d'Ivoire. You have a president. We don't really know exactly who has elected him, because this could have been solved. It would have been, again, possible to see what is the voice of the people of Côte d'Ivoire.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to have to jump in here. We've all run out of time. We could have gone a lot longer, I'm sure. Many thanks to my guests today in Paris, London, and in Washington. And thanks to our viewers for watching us here on RT. See you next time, and remember, crosstalk rules.